I'm Vicki Carlin and I live in Los Angeles. Sounds like it's time to get the cake. Oh, looks perfect. I'm 45 and I work in a healthcare company as an outcomes researcher. I work in a healthcare company as an analyst, and I work with a great group of people who are very analytic, very smart, but I spend most of my day number crunching and doing market analysis and very analytic kind of intellectual work. And what I love about baking is just coming home and putting all of that behind me, maybe thumbing through some of my favorite cookbooks. I read cookbooks like other people read novels. Anything creative, from sewing to cooking and baking, really helps me escape from the humdrum analytic demands of my job. I've chosen to make a carrot cake as my submission. It really is my signature item, or one of them, because people again and again request it, and I love making it. I'm using carrots from my yard, in the backyard, and raisins and pineapple and walnuts and a bunch of other yummy ingredients. So what I'm going to do is start assembling the cake now. So I started with the first layer. This will be a 3-layer carrot cake. And what I'm doing now is I'm just putting a layer of cream cheese frosting in between. And I love to put the cream cheese frosting in because it's a little bit tangy and it offsets the sweetness really nicely. People always ask, like, when did I start baking, or what's my first memory of baking? And I can't remember exactly, but 2 really fond memories I have are both of my grandmothers. On my father's side, my grandma Ray used to make these incredible moon cookies, and I just remember the vision I have of her is I'm eye level with the table. So I was watching her roll the cookies out, and I remember kind of watching the flab on her arm shake, and I thought, that's like grandma flab. And that was very entertaining to me at that time. But she would make these moon cookies, and they were in the shape of crescent moons. And I used to think that was why they were called that, until years later when I found out that moon is actually poppy seed, and these were poppy seed cookies. So it made a lot more sense then. But that's a really fond memory I have. The grandmother on my mother's side, I spent a lot more time with her, and she was Austrian. She was Czech, but then was in Austria for most of her life. And she would make the most incredible strudel. And I remember just staring, probably with my mouth wide open, watching her. She would have the entire table covered with the thinnest dough you can imagine. I just would watch her. So these were very early memories. I wasn't actually doing baking, but I was watching baking being done. And they're really comforting, loving memories that I have of my grandparents that I often think about when I'm baking. One of my other signature items is lemon curd that I make with lemons from my backyard. That's another one of my signature items, is a pear almond tart, which I love to make. I make cookies, you know, especially around the holidays and around the Jewish holidays. I make a lot of kind of seasonal, traditional items like honey cake and hamantaschen, Pflaumenkuchen, which is a plum cake that my grandmother always made, and I make that every year at Yom Kippur. One of the reasons why I selected this as an item to submit is that I love gardening, and I feel like this cake really represents that part of my life. So I've never had any formal baking training. A lot of it I've learned from observing my grandmothers. These are carrots. I actually made these yesterday out of marzipan, and I smashed up some spearmint candy for the leaves. Just gonna press them in right here. Try to do them a little bit evenly. So now I'm just making the little cabbages that'll go on the beds. I actually don't have any actual baking disasters, but my disasters seem to always happen when I'm baking. One time when I was baking a plum cake, I accidentally shredded a little bit on my finger while I was grating the apples, and I had to go to the emergency room. So here's the first cabbage going into the bed. Looks a little bit like a Napa cabbage.